Yes, he's got a good story about hair, don't you, Paul? Hello. Yeah, I am 75. That's why I get to have a cheat sheet. Because you can't expect me to remember everything. Okay, I was born in San Diego, which is down by the Mexican border, but I wasn't born Mexican, I was born white. What? That's what it said on my birth certificate. Andre Cecilia White, daughter of Sydney and Olivia White. Okay, well now after 40 years in Australia, I am an African American Australian. Makes me a triple AA. Now, every woman has a hair story. So do a lot of men. And gays, true that, a lot of stories. In its natural state, my hair is kinky. Now, my boyfriend is only 42, so he didn't understand about what kind of hair I had. He thought I had curly hair. And I said, no, darling, you're a history buff. Isn't that why you're with me? You like old things? Curly hair goes around in circles. Straight hair, straight, and wavy hair. Well, kinky hair is all of that in one strand. My mother lived by the principle that a woman, a black woman, could not have hair that was too straight. If your hair was nappy, if you went around with it kinky, you obviously were very badly brought up or just plain lazy. And even though in the olden days before the chemical straighteners, when you really had to go hard to get your hair straight, I didn't mind. I mean, so you wash it and then take a big comb with tooth about that wide, drag it through, and then ball it up, and then take a comb made out of steel off the hot fire and throw out a big scop of grease on top of that hair, and then you drag the comb through it till the poor hair would just... And then, if she missed, you might end up with a burn. Or if the hair wasn't too dry, a steam burn, or just a plain burn. And if it was a hot day, if you sweated just a little bit, or if a little gentle rain came down, it would be nappy all over again. Well, it wasn't my thought ever to go against my mother's beliefs, and I kept my hair straight until I went off to college, and the first black student body president was so cute. And he was sort of into nationalism, so I went from blonde, straight hair to an afro. Only then it hadn't even been named afro yet, it was just called a natural. And my mom went berserk. I was forbidden to go to her beauty salon. If I went, I had to knock on the door and ask the receptionist to have her step outside. Mom thought I was bad for her business. Yeah, I mean, she was the hairdresser to Mrs. Nat King Cole, Mrs. Louis Armstrong, Mrs. Martin Luther King, Miss Maya Angelou. So I wasn't too dumb. I knew about the golden rule. She made the goals, so she made the rules. And I agreed that I would wear a wig on my head any time that I might be in a position to embarrass her. When I finished, I took off for New York. I left the West Coast for the East Coast, and I thought, I'm away from my mother now. I can do what I want. Until the phone call came. Andrea, Mom always had her knees together very nicely, so I have to sit like that. Andrea, yes, Mom? Gwen told me that Martin Luther King called last week. Yes, Mom. And she told me that he saw you in New York. Oh, yeah, Mom, he was at a press conference, and he got Andrea, he said that you're wearing your hair nappy again. So, when I went to work on the original Star Trek, the wig was on and in place, and I wasn't going to move it. I went to work for producer Gene Kuhn, and that was another thing. I mean, here I was, a young black woman going to work for a middle-aged white dude called Kuhn. But on the lot, there's a guy. He was tall, dark, and handsome. Anybody ever watch Hogan's Heroes? The black guy. And of course, I sort of had to mention that I had the hair underneath the wig, and he kept saying, take off the wig. Take off the wig. And he kept, take off the wig, come on, take off the wig. And finally one day he just said, oh, forget it. You're nothing but Coon's coon. I didn't like that very much, but you know, on Star Trek, we were about social change. We were doing things like the first interracial kiss on television in America. We had a rock who had maternal feelings. Well, one day it was just too hot. And I took off the wig, and I stuck my head under a cold water tap, and I let the cold water run through it, and I combed it out, and I sat down, and I dared him to say anything. And nobody said a word. And you know, I felt I was free, I was me, and I was a little bit cheeky. Hello, Coon's Coon, can I help you? In 1974, I moved to Australia. I got here just ahead of Cyclone Tracy, so you can't blame that on me. And I thought, this time, I am far enough away from her. This time, she came too. And I had decided that I wanted to have dreadlocks, and nobody was wearing dreadlocks, so I didn't know how to do it, but I heard the record. Brother Bob said, dread from the roots, so I took all my hair off. And when Mom saw me, she decided that I was coming out, and this was my way of indicating to the world my sexuality. Well, the little naps started sticking up all over my head, and I started teaching conflict resolution. The naps formed into little locks, and I stopped judging every word my mother said to me. The locks reached my ear, and I realized that she loved me, and she was just doing the best she could. And by the time they touched my shoulder, I remembered, oh my God, oh, I don't believe I did that. Oh, Mother must have been so embarrassed. Oh. And I understood my part in it. One night we sat down and passed the peace pipe, and we discovered and decided and agreed that hair, kinky, straight, short, long, it was just good to have some on your head. Now, that was some really good weed that her friend had given her. Mom said it helped her sleep. It took away some of her pain, and it certainly improved her appetite. It opened us up so much, talking to each other, that I even one day said, Mom, was Dad any good in bed? I'm not going to tell what you said. But a friend of mine was in California this year, Granny Bong, and she saw a doctor there for her knees, and he gave her also a prescription for medical marijuana. And she took it off to a pharmacy, and she was so excited. I was so excited to be there. And I walked in, I had my referral from the doctor, and I had my American passport to show that I was really me. And the guard said, nope, sorry, you have to have a California ID. Now, this was like going to Disneyland and being told that you're that much too short to go on the ride. So I went away, and when I came back, I had that ID. And I had all my forms, and you know what? I was tall enough. He pushed the button, the door opened, I went in, and there was another locked door. And then he pushed the button for that one, and suddenly I was in the happiest place on earth. On the right-hand side was the weed, the stuff that you do things with. You mull it up and you smoke it in bongs or in vaporizers or in joints or pipes or something. And they had the indica sativa blend. They had, oh my God, so many kinds. And over here were chocolates, brownies, cheesecake. Oh my God. Oh. And I had a friend who at that time was going through chemotherapy, and she had chemo-induced okay, her hands and her feet hurt really, really bad. And I would rub her feet at night, and then I would give her a glass of cannabis strawberry lemonade, and she would go off to sleep. I myself preferred the cannabis caramel popcorn. But there were also the capsules or the drops that you put under your tongue or you spray. I mean, it was in every form possible, in every kind of way that you would want it. The law that allowed that was called the Compassionate Care Act. The dispensary I was in was called the Compassionate Care Patients Cooperative. And I want some goddamn compassion. I mean, think about it. People are constantly pissing in my face and telling me it's rain. I cannot deal with that. In Canberra, where are the dogs in the pubs? Who there gets arrested for marijuana, porn, or fireworks? I would like, before I'm back in nappies again, to have a medical marijuana dispensary on Glebe Point Road. And if I don't get it, I'm gonna pop a cap in somebody's ass. I always wanted to say that. Now, all of you have stories. It's by telling our stories that we understand each other better. It's telling our stories that we can come together. And those of you who are reaching my age, just remember this. When an elder dies, a library is lost.